សូមជើញអង្គុយ
President, please be seated. The chamber gives the floor to the Defense Counsel for Nguyen Chia to continue putting questions. Please thank you, Mr. President, and good afternoon, the chamber, and also good afternoon, Madam Civil Party. Before the lunch break, we talked about your first sexual intercourse with your husband. You said that you did not have sex with him during the second encounter with him. So when exactly did you start to have the first sexual intercourse with him? I mean, how many months after your marriage that you had sex with him for the first time? Answer. It was about 1 or 2 months later on that I had sex with him, because if I refused to do so, I would be taken away and killed, because I saw soldiers guarding around my house. Question. So it was 1 or 2 months later on. So during the 1 month or 2 months period, did the chief of your husband ask you to go and receive any reprimand? President, Madam Civil Party, please wait until the tip of the microphone turns red. I give the floor to the lead co-lawyer for Civil Party. Merci.
Thank you, Mr. President. I only heard the French translation of the first part of the question, and I found that question very repetitive, because it's about 10 times that he's been asking the same question. So regarding the date, I think the Civil Party was very clear about this before the lunch break, and she doesn't remember exactly when this happened in terms of dates. And she even said that there might be an error in the document of her Civil Party application. I think we all agree to that here. So it was regarding the first part of the question: when did she have sexual intercourse for the first time with her husband? I think that this question is repetitive, because our colleague has been putting that question to her at least 10 times, and the Civil Party explained that she was not able to remember precisely when that happened.
Counsel for Nguyen Chia. Mr. President, in response to my last question, the Civil Party said that it was 1 month or 2 months after her marriage that she had sex with her husband. And my question to her was that during the 1 month and 2 months period, did the chief of her husband ask her to meet him, in which he would reprimand her? President, Counsel can proceed with the question. Counsel, thank you, Mr. President. Madam Civil Party, so during the 1 month or 2 months period that you did not have sex with your husband yet, did the chief of your husband ask you to meet him, in which he reprimanded you? Answer, no, we were far away from each other, and we were busy with our work, and during the 1 or 2 months period, we did not have time to see each other. Only later on that we met each other. And during the bad time, I had to agree, because if I kept on refusing, I would be taken away to be killed. But I can tell you that I could not remember the specific date when we had sex. Question. can you tell us about the day when you had sex? What was the activity of your husband and what was your activity? Answer. I did not shout, nor did I protest because I was frightened. So I finally agreed to let him do it. But I was so upset, I was so angry that I was forced to get married. So when you ask me about such questions, it reminded me of that period. I felt so upset about it. Question. You said that you were you stay still because you were frightened.
I'm sorry, even though the objection hasn't been raised now, but I think we've heard that now a couple of times. Counsel, understand there is a need for a vigorous examination. But given what we are talking about, there is also a certain need for sensitivity and, if you don't agree with that, at least to keep to the rules which say don't repeat questions that have already been answered. So kindly keep that in mind for the rest of the examination.
Counsel. Thank you, Judge. Now my question is about the time when you started to be pregnant. So how many months later on after you had sex that you started to be pregnant? Answer. As I told you this morning, that in late 1977, early 1978, and in late 1978, I delivered my baby, but I could not recall exactly when I started to have sex. Question. Do you remember the exact months when you delivered the baby? I mean the months in 1978. Answer. No, I cannot recall it. I simply put the months of Masang or snake months, but it was not the exact months when my daughter was born. When people ask me about the date when my daughter was born, I told them that I did not remember because at that time I gave birth to my daughter without the presence of my relatives. Question. When the Vietnamese came to liberate in 7 January 1979, how old was your daughter? Answer. She was still small. But I do not remember how old she was because at that time I was so busy and so overwhelmed with moving around because the situation toward that time was chaotic. Question. During the time when you stay with your husband, did your husband show any expression of love toward you? Answer. Later on, he consoled me, but to me, I remain unchanged. Even he's already passed away, I still feel that I remain unchanged. My husband was not a talkative person. he spoke with an accent, and sometimes I could not understand him. It was like what I told you earlier. Husband, was your husband the one who proposed to you, or he did not propose at all? I mean, for the marriage. Answer, as I told you earlier, that each of us
getting tired. We are getting tired, Council. Don't repeat. That has nothing to do with sensitivity. That's the law.
Council, this morning you said that you separated from your husband for 3 years, and later on you got reunited with him, and your parents and relatives convinced you to live with him because both of you had child together. So my question to you is, you're living with him again after you reunion with him. Was it your own decision, or was it the pressure from your family? Answer. After 3 years, we started to feel normal toward each other. You asked me this question in the morning, and I already gave you the answer that after we got separated for 3 years and then we reunited, we simply lived together and felt normal because I did not talk much, and my husband also did not talk much. President, my colleague has a few questions to put to the civil party. President, the chamber would like to ask to the defense counsel for Nuon Chi. Have you discussed with the defense counsel for Khieu Samphan about time allocation?
Yes, Mr. President, we have.
President, yes, you may proceed now.
Good afternoon, Mr. President, judges, parties. Good afternoon, Madam Civil Party. I just have a few follow-up questions. They won't be long, so please bear with me. My first questions relate to something that you were discussing just before lunchtime with my co-lawyer, Liv Savannah, about guards monitoring you. You also talked earlier this morning to your lawyers about the fact that at nights the guards monitored you, and if you did not consummate your marriage, measures would be taken. My question is, how did you know measures would be taken if you did not consummate your marriage?
If we did not consume the marriage, my husband would report this to his boss. At that time, they did not address each other as sweetheart or lover. They simply call each other cadre, comrade.
Okay, and then shifting focus to the militiamen who you said were watching you, first a general question. Do you know what their general duties were in the village?
I do not know how to answer. The militiamen was deployed to the village, and when there was the marriage, those militiamen were deployed to spy on us. I do not know how to give any more answer beyond this, and I feel that the question is repetitious.
Well, perhaps I'm not making myself clear. What I'm trying to understand is, you describe them as militiamen. So what kind of things did they do every day? For example, were they guarding the village, providing security, I don't know, doing other things, running errands? Do you know?
They did their work at their respective units, and I do not know much about their units.
Thank you, Madam Civil Party. I might just try it a different way to see if this makes a difference. How did you know that the militiamen were specifically there to monitor whether you and your husband were having sex and were not just monitoring security in the village? Did they say something to you? Did you hear something about this?
When I came down to relieve myself, I saw them sitting, and because there were instances of my case that I disagree, so I concluded that they came to monitor whether we consummate the marriage.
Okay, so just to be sure, did you ever hear about an order to the militiamen to monitor whether couples were having sex in your village?
Yes, there were cases when people did not consummate the marriage. And I find it difficult to give any more answer, because I feel that if I continue to give the answer would be repetitious.
I understand, Madam Civil Party. I'll move on to my next line of questions now. I know we've discussed this at length, but I'm just going to ask a few different questions now, just a few concerning what you knew about what happened to your cousin Heng Vani. And these are my questions. So this morning, you spoke to the prosecutors about Heng Vani telling you that her mother had been taken away to be killed because she was accused of being the network of the enemy. And you also said that Heng Vani lived in a nearby village, so you saw each other often and could speak to each other. My first question just relates to that last part. How was it that you saw each other often, even though you didn't live in the same village? Were you free to move around and meet each other?
We did not have freedom or rights to move around, but because we work close to each other. For example, when I tap the resins, our village is on one side of the road and her village is on another side of the road, so we accidentally met each other. So when we saw each other, we tried to approach each other to talk to each other.
Thank you, Madam Civil Party. And then later this morning, you told the international co-prosecutor that your cousin told you, Heng Vani told you, that she was arranged to get married and she refused. And then later you heard that she was taken away and you realized that she was taken to be killed. My question is, did someone tell you why your cousin Heng Vani was taken away?
When she was taken away, I heard from other people that she had disappeared. during the meeting, I saw a comrade wearing a clothes. And during that meeting, I saw the tag on the pocket of his shirt. And I recognized that it was hers. So I concluded that my cousin were killed.
Thank you. I'm now going to ask you a couple of questions concerning information in your supplementary information form that was attached to your civil party application. Mr. President, I will be quoting from E3/6011A, and it was quoted by the prosecution earlier this morning and also by my colleague, Liv Savannah. The ERNs I will be quoting from are, in English, 01137890. In Khmer, 01003356, and in French, 01030293. Madam Civil Party, as I just mentioned, this is a section of your supplementary information form that my colleague has already discussed with you before the lunch break. But now I would like to ask you some different questions in this regard. So in order to do that, I'm just going to reread you the quote so that you have it fresh in your mind. And this is the quote. In 1977, Heng Vani alias Vern was forced to get married, but she refused. Therefore, she was called by Angkar for re-education on several occasions. And then a little later it says, quote, in 1978, Heng Vani, my niece, was taken by car by Pan to Chamkas Vaichanti, where the 3 soldiers raped and killed her. I was told about this and shown my niece's clothes, unquote. Now, Madam Civil Party, I know you've already discussed when these events happened, and I'm not going to ask you more about that. What I'm interested in is the part where you said that you were told about what happened to your niece and shown her clothes. Who told you what happened to your niece?
In late 1977 and early 1978, when she was taken away by Pan, because I use that road often, and I heard from people telling me that your cousin were taken away and she was killed. And they told me that the vehicle of Comrade Pan took her, and the person who told me said that it was true, it was real. The person told me when I walked past his or her place, and he or she told me about that. And I think that my cousin really died, because from then until now, I have never met her or received any news about her.
Thank you, Madam Civil Party. You just mentioned now about the car of Pan, and that's what my other questions were relating to. In your lawyer's first questions today, and then in your discussion with my co-lawyer, I heard you discussing how you first refused to have sex with your husband, then he went and he spoke to his chief, who was named Pan, and then this person named Pan came to see you and raped you. My question is as follows. Is this the same Pan as the Pan who you identified as taking your cousin to Chamkas Vaichanti, where 3 soldiers killed her?
Yes, it was the same Pan, because he was the chief and he was in authority and no one dared to do anything with him. Later on, he also disappeared. So it was the same Pan the same pan that caused harm to me and caused harm to my cousin.
And my last question on this point, your cousin you said was in a different village to you. Do you know how it was that Pan knew her?
I was aware because the villagers knew that I was related to my cousin, so they told me because they saw Pan taken her away. Pan himself did not know that I was related to my cousin, but the villagers who told me knew that my cousin and I are relatives.
Thank you, Madam Civil Party. And I just have a few minutes worth of questions left, and this is my last line of questioning. This is about the discussion that you had earlier this morning with the International Civil Party lawyers about why you were only speaking about your experience, your personal experience of being raped today. I have to ask you, can you elaborate on how it was that it's only today that we are hearing about this?
I told you already in the morning that whenever I was asked about this, I spoke out about this suffering. Previously, I never tell anyone about this.
So why did you not speak about it before today? Did something trigger you to raise it today? Or you didn't want to tell us before today? That's my final question.
President, hold on, Madam Civil Party. I give the floor to the lead lawyer for Civil Party. Good afternoon, Mr. President. I think the question is repetitious, and Madam Marie Giros has already objected to such question.
I think it might not be clear in the translation. The witness has explained to us why she didn't mention it previously. What counsel wants to know now, why she mentions it today. Do you understand that correctly? It's very similar, but not exactly the same. So why do you mention it today?
Counsel Hong Kam-son, Mr. President, with your leave, because I was the one who started the question. In the word rumlob or rape, in fact, she did not forget about the rape, but she just used a different word in Khmer. And I would like to refer to a document. So I agree to the force from my husband and other people. So at that time, she used such word to describe the situation. But now she used the word rape. But in Khmer language, they use the word force from husband and other people. President, now the Defense Counsel, you may proceed with your line of question.
Sorry. It doesn't... no. That's fine, Mr. President. I have no further questions. Thank you.
President, the floor is given to the Defense Counsel for Khieu Samphan.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good afternoon, Your Honors. Good afternoon, parties, and good afternoon, Madam Civil Party. My name is Kung Samon. I'm the national lawyer for Khieu Samphan, and I only have some supplementary questions to put to you. Could you please pronounce the proper name of your aunt to the court? Answer. Her name is Saum Yuan. However, she might be known by other aliases. Counsel, thank you. So your aunt's name is Saum Yuan. And do you have other aunts? Answer, no, I don't. But as I said, my aunt had her native name as Saum Yuan, and she may be known by other aliases. Question, is it Saum Yuan or Som Yuan? Answer, I told the interviewer Som Yuan, but maybe the interviewer wrote it as Som Yuan. Question, I'm trying to ask you whether the name is Saum Yuan or Som Yuan, not Som Yun. Answer, the name is Som Yuan, but I don't know how it is spelled in the statement. Question, and do you have another aunt by the name of Som Yun, or whether this aunt of yours had her alias as Som Yun? Answer, my aunt's name is Som Yun, and I have another aunt by the name of Som Yuan. Question, I'd like to ask you some more questions about your aunt. Can you tell the chamber when did you last meet her? Answer, I met her last in Phnom Penh. My other brother took me to Phnom Penh and I saw her for a brief moment. I did not know the exact location because I was young, but it was somewhere in Phnom Penh and I met her briefly only. Question, and what year was that? Answer, it was in 1975 after the Liberation Day. Question, what was her situation like when you met your aunt? Answer, I did not observe her situation. I only asked her about how she was doing. She said she was doing okay. and she looked normal because when I met her, it's just days after Phnom Penh had been liberated, and I did not meet her for a long time. Question: what was her physical appearance? Answer: she was normal, and that was the same physical shapes that I remembered. She's not so fat or not so skinny. Question: did she lose an eye, or did she lose a limb, or was she a deaf person? Answer: she was a normal person. Question: Mr. President, I'd like to read an excerpt from E3/6011 at Khmer EAN 01003355. English 01137889. French 01030292. And allow me to quote the following statement. One day in 1970 or 1971, my aunt was suspected of being affiliated with the Khmer Rouge, that is, killed Sampon. At that time, the Entam faction arrested her. She was tortured and interrogated civilly until she died. President Council, please hold on. And lawyer for civil parties, you have the floor. Lawyer for civil parties, thank you, Mr. President. I don't have any objection, but I'd like to clarify the document. In fact, the document that the excerpt should be for the year of 1970 or 1971 and not 1970 or 1976. Council, maybe it's a slip of my tongue. It should read one day in 1970 or 1971. And allow me to continue the excerpt. At that time, the Entam faction arrested her. She was severely tortured until she died. And this part is difficult for me to read, and it reads that she became disabled, and she was also blind because of the torture. She was tortured in order to clarify the relationship between her, Samyun, and Keo Sampon. End of quote. And Madam Civil Party, In your statement that I just read out, does it jog your memory? You actually signed this statement on 28 May 2014. And yes, I recall that a statement during 1970 and 1971. Tam did not arrest my aunt, but they came to arrest my mother, although my aunt frequently came to visit my house. And my mother was the elder sister, and my mother's name is Som Jun, and my aunt's name is Som Joan, and the name sounds pretty much familiar. And as a result, my mother was taken away and tortured at their location. She was accused of hiding her sibling, and they were asking her of her whereabouts. And they asked her about the relationship between Khieu Sampon and her. Question. Thank you. And are you saying that now you change your statement from the one that you provided on the 28th of May 2014? Answer. No, I do not change my statement. Maybe the interviewer or note taker made a mistake. It was not my aunt who was arrested. She fled away, but my mother, the elder sister of my aunt, got arrested. I can recall that vividly, and I did not make that mistake. It could be the mistake of the note taker or the interviewer, because I refer to two individuals. One was my mother, and the other one was my aunt. Question. I have another question to put to you in relation to Khieu Sampon. President, lawyer for civil parties, you have the floor. Lawyer for civil parties, thank you, Mr. President. I do not object to the question. However, I'd like to clarify the excerpt from counsel. If he reads a bit further, it would reach the point where she mentioned about her aunt's relationship through Khieu Sampon. That's why Tam side tortured my mother, and she became disabled for her whole life. So here there is a distinction between her mother and her aunt. President, Counsel for Khieu Sampon, you may continue. Kong Sampon, thank you. In fact, the excerpts that I read out is correct. She refers to her aunt and not her mother. If Madame Civil Party does not make mistake, maybe it is a mistake by the note taker. However, it is clear that the word aunt is used in her statement. And Madame Civil Party, did you know or did you have any relationship with Khieu Sampon, in particular between 1970 to 75? Here I refer to your personal experience. Answer, no, I did not. But my aunt worked in Chamkale district. She used to say that in 1971 or 72, Although I may be unclear about the year, Khieu Samphan went for his propaganda drive in Popriei Pagoda, but I cannot recall the exact date. However, it happened in around 1971 or 72. That Khieu Samphan dressed in black clothes, and he was wearing a red scarf, or kroma. And there were about 500 to 600 participants. At that time, I did not participate in the meeting, and I was a distance away. Question. Could you clarify your statement? Because you just said that it was your aunt who had a relationship with Khieu Samphan, and that she told you about the meeting. Or did you personally participate in the event that is in that meeting in Popriei Pagoda? People were told about that, and then people spoke to each other amongst their group members that we should go to attend a meeting in Wat Popriei since Khieu Samphan came. So people would go to that pagoda. Some went there by on bicycle, some went there on foot. Question. My question is the following. Did you personally participate in the meeting, or did you know about the meeting in Popriei Pagoda through your aunt? Answer. I did go through the meeting, and I even saw Khieu Samphan there. However, I was a distance away from the podium, since the temple was huge, and I stood outside the temple. Question. And do you recall the content of that meeting? What were discussed during the meeting? Answer. I can recall the content, and I cannot recall any requests or proposals, although I knew that Khieu Samphan was there. And this happened a long time ago, since 1971 or 1972. Question. In relation to your position, you stated earlier that you worked at a rubber plantation, and you also worked as a medic. Did you have any particular function or title when you worked as a medic, or you worked as part of the Unit 07 at the rubber plantation? Answer. I myself was not a full-fledged medic. I was only used when the medic was not available, because I had some experience in the medicine, but I was not an official or trained medic. And in the unit, I was an ordinary member. Council, thank you, Madam Civil Party and Mr. President. I don't have any further questions. President, thank you. And Madam Civil Party, as a civil party before the Chamber, you may make a statement of harm and suffering in relation to the crimes alleged against the two accused, that is Nuon Chi and Khieu Samphan, which were inflicted upon you during the Democratic Cambodia regime from 17 April 1975 to 6 January 1979. and there is the harms for physical, material, or mental injuries as direct consequences of those crimes, and which resulted in your civil party application to claim collective and moral reparations. If you wish to do so, you may make that statement before the chamber. And if you have questions that you wish to put to the accused, you may do so through the chamber. Civil party allied to ask Khieu Sampon the following question: what is his relationship between him and my aunt Samyon? And why was she taken away and killed at Tul Slang since she worked with him? And that is all, Mr. President. Madam Civil Party, the Chamber wishes to inform you that so far the three accused still exercise their right to remain silent. Please be informed. And the hearing of testimony of Civil Party to TCCP 274 is now concluded. And Madam Civil Party, the Chamber is grateful of your testimony as a Civil Party, and you may leave the court. Court officer, please work with Wisu to make transport arrangement for the Civil Party to return to her residence or wherever she wishes to return. Next, the Chamber will hear testimony of another Civil Party, that is to TCCP 224, and Court officer, please usher Civil Party to TCCP 224 into the courtroom. President, good afternoon. Civil Party, what is your name? Civil Party, my name is Su Sotivi. Question, when were you born? Answer, I was born on 8 December 1940. Question, where were you born? Answer, it was in Kontut Thom village, Trolai commune, Trang district, Takeo province. Question, where is your current address and what is your current occupation? Answer, currently I live in the same native village and I am a rice farmer. Question, what are the names of your parents? And Civil Party, please observe the microphone. You should speak only when you see the red light on the tip. Answer, my father is Su Vivot and my mother is Kau Sukun. Both died during the Pol Pot regime. Question, what is your wife's name and how many children do you have? And her name is Imrota, and we have one child, although we separated since 1979. President and Mr. Sotivi, you are invited to be here as a civil party. And toward the conclusion of your testimony, you are given an opportunity to make an impact statement concerning the crimes which are alleged against the two accused, and that happened during the Democratic Cambodia regime, if you wish to do so. And civil party, have you been interviewed by investigators from the Office of Co-Investigating Judges? If so, how many times, when and where? And I have been interviewed on a number of occasions by representative of the Khmer Tribunal. However, I can't recall how many times. And I came to testify here for one time. Question. And before your appearance, have you reviewed or read the written records of your interview with investigators in order to refresh your memory? And I still recall everything, although it happened more than 30 years ago. It is like a record on the computer. My memory is still vivid. Question. To your best knowledge and ability, can you tell the chamber whether the written records of your statements that you have read to refresh your memory are consistent with the statements you provided to the investigators? Answer. They are consistent. President, thank you. Pursuant to Rule 91B of the ECCC internal rules, the Chamber will hand the floor first to the lead co-lawyers to put the questions before other parties, and the combined time for the lead co-lawyer for civil parties and the co-prosecutors are 2 court sessions. You may proceed.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Civil Party. I have a few questions to put to you this afternoon, mainly on your marriage during the DK regime. And before I do this, and so that everyone may understand who you are, I would like to refer to document E3/4607, French ERN 00845987, English 00279712, Khmer 00279728. A document in which it is indicated that you are a transgender woman, which means we are women born with the physical attributes of the opposite sex, which we do not identify with. Civil Party, can you confirm that in April 1975 you were a transgendered woman?
In 1975, during the lunar regime, I did not change my sex, even today. However, it's the physical attribute that I do not love women. It's just the feeling, and I am in the third group, and we are known as transgenders.
Thank you. When the Khmer Rouge liberated the country in April 1975, did you look like a man, or was your physical appearance that of a woman? Did you dress like a man, or did you dress like a woman?
I started dressing as a woman since I was 10 years old. Everywhere I went, I continued dressing like a woman. Even in 1975, when I was evacuated to a countryside, I tried to conceal my identity. However, when I arrived in my native village, since I was known by my relatives and the best people, I took off my clothes that I was wearing, although I refused to cut my hair.
And at one point in time during the DK regime, did you have to cut your hair?
When I was evacuated from Somlong mountain, it was a re-education prison. My hair was not cut yet. Only when I arrived at the destination where I settled down with the villagers, that they told me that the old and the new people would be required to marry, and then they sent in soldiers to cut my hair.
And as of then, under the DK regime, were you considered as a member of the new people?
I was considered since 12 April 1975 because I was considered as the April people, not like the old people.
Vous êtes-vous marié?
Did you get married during the DK period?
After I was evacuated from Phnom Sanong, from the prison, I was relocated to Chait village of Dong commune in Bati district. During the Khmer Rouge regime, it was within Kandal province, but now it's part of Takao province. I was asked to get married, but I refused.
Vous souvenez?
Do you remember approximately the date when you were asked to get married? Do you remember the date when you arrived in Ching village?
When I arrived in Chait village of Dong commune, it was early 1977. They did not identify who should get married to whom yet. They simply made the announcement that sooner or later there would be marriage organized. And in February, they forced me to get married. And finally, in October 1977, the marriage took place.
Vous avez
You said earlier that you were asked to get married a first time, but that you refused. Can you tell us who asked you to get married and how and why you refused back then to do so?
It was the unit chief who forced me, threatened me to marry. If I did not agree, I would be taken to study, I would be taken to be killed. But I told the person that my mother was quite old and she could not move around. So I begged for his pardon to keep me, to look after my mother.
Et lorsque vous avez
And when you asked this unit chief to not get married, what was his reaction?
The Khmer never compromised with us, and they never used good words with us. They did not say anything, but later on they moved me to study at the commune, and I felt very difficult to talk about this because every time I talk about this, I feel so tense because every time that we protested or disagree with them, we were threatened that we would be taken away to be killed.
vous avez indiqué
You said earlier that you wanted to take care of your mother, who was aged. Was your mother with you in Chek village, and were there other members of your family in that same village?
All my family members gone except my old mother. Later on, my mother was also taken away to be killed. They accused my mother of being lazy and could not work. She was taken away and she disappeared since then. At that time, I felt that whatever happened, I would accept it. My in-law told me that I had to agree because if I continue to refuse, I also would be taken away to be killed. I kept on refusing to get married because I never loved women. I love only men. That is my nature since I was born.
votre mère
Was your mother taken away, as you said, before or after your marriage?
She was taken away toward the day I got married. But I could not identify the place where she was killed. Those villagers told me that my family's members were all taken away to be killed. What I could do was only conducting the religious ritual to pray for their souls.
Madame la partie civile.
Civil party, I'm going to continue putting questions to you, but if you need to take a break, I think you can tell us, and the president will, of course, consider that. So were you informed of the reasons you had to get married Were you told why? Were you explained why you had to get married?
They did not tell us any reason. They simply forced me to get married. I could not move anywhere because Tapej mountain. It was an isolated place. It was the place where they kept the 17 April people and the people without any relatives. And I myself, as a transgender woman, was also placed there. I was required to break the rock, and I must make sure that I could break 1 cubic meter of rock a day, otherwise I would not be given food to eat. President, is now appropriate time for